these are disagreeable enemies, and we want to be agreeing with God over there in that tree of life that tells us that God is full of life, that'll be there forever, the tree of life. All right, so these names, the thing about names in the Old Testament is they almost always define the nature or the character of the person. For example, in our last study, we talked about how Leah had some children. She had 4 little boys. The first little boy's name was Reuben, and Reuben means, God, do you hear me? Because Leah's in a tough marriage, and she's saying, God, could you change my circumstances? And so then she has another little boy, and she names him Simeon, and Simeon means, do you see? God, do you see what's going on here in my life? I'm not happy. I'd like you to change my circumstances. And then she has a little boy named, what's his name? Reuben, Simeon, and Levi. And Levi means that I'm attached to God, and therefore, God, you owe me. In other words, I've done all these good things. I've given my husband all these babies, and now you owe me. And then finally, she has a kind of a reckoning someplace inside of her. And the last baby that she has, she calls Judah, which means, I'll praise you even if my circumstances don't change. Well, that's an example of how strong the idea of names is in the Bible. We'll do a whole teaching about that later, okay? But in this particular case, I want to show you which each of these 7 tribes, not the termites, but those other 7 tribes that we named off, and they are, and I'll say them again, they are the Hittites, and then the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Pezerites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now, all of these in their name contains an attribute of their character, of this whole community, this whole clan, if you will. So let's talk about each one, all right? So the first one that we're going to talk about is the Girgashites. Let me write it down, see if I can get it in a place where you'll actually see it. Girgashites. I got it there? Yeah, I did. Okay, Girgashites. Okay, the Girgashites. So what does their name mean? Well, in your notes, you're going to see what they are, but I'm going to teach it to you here so you can kind of go back over it later, all right? But Girgashites, oh, I'm sorry, that's the second one. I skipped one. Let's go back. Let's go up here and see if I can squish that up there. Hittites. I've never made a mistake before in my life, and here it is, recorded for all posterity. Hittites. Sorry. Okay, Hittites are the first tribe. We'll get to Girgashites in a minute. You wait right there, Mr. Girgashite. Okay, what does Hittites mean? Well, that name actually means the tribe, and it means general anxiety. Anxiety, like just, you don't know why you're anxious, you're just anxious. It is fear that doesn't have a focus. It's just fear. It's this sense like of foreboding. Now, we have a lot of that in the earth today. You know, people say, I'm having an anxiety attack. They can't figure out what the fear is, but it's making them really scared and kind of shaky and weird. So anxiety is what the Hittites will bring to us as worshipers. They will get in the way for us, and it'll be just general, I don't know what, I'm just anxious. I'm just anxious about everything. So the Hittites are a tribe that wants to stop the life of a worshiper from getting to the promise of being a worshiper. So when you're anxious, or when I'm anxious, I have to recognize that's an enemy. That's not a friend. And when I am anxious, it's like I put a big cell phone 5G tower on top of my head, and that 5G tower is sending out beams that say, all demons this way, come here and bother her. So I have to be careful that when I find myself being anxious, that I don't nurse it, I don't pet it. Okay. So anxiety, just unspecific, just there. The Hittites. That's an unagreeable enemy of God's. Girgashites. Now I finally get to tell you about Girgashites. So Girgashites means a specific fear. So this is a general fear. This is specific fear. So the Gurgeshites, the title there actually means you're scared of something in particular. You're anxious about something in particular. A lot of people are scared of spiders or heights or thunderstorms, or my dogs are scared of firecrackers and all that. My particular specific fear is I hate to fly. And for the past about 10 or 15 years, I have done a lot of that. I do a lot of flying. I have to get on the plane a lot. And the night before, you could ask my daughter who lives with me, what's your mom like? And mom's usually like in a real frantic-y kind of, ooh, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And that specific fear causes my tummy to react. And so many times when I fly, I vomit on the plane or right when I get off, okay? Because I'm so scared of this. So this is something that's in front of me that I have to choose to defeat. Because if I didn't, I would be stuck in my pajamas for the rest of my life in my bed. It's a funny kind of story. I'll tell you one funny story because you need to laugh, right? Okay, so one of the first times I flew to Korea, I was with a group of people, and it's a long flight to Korea. It's maybe, 17, 18 hours. And so you're on the plane quite a long time. And I'm being attacked by the Gurgeshites. And about halfway through the flight, they begin to serve you Korean food because it's a Korean airline and you're going to Korea, which makes sense. So I'm eating this kind of strange food I've never eaten before. And my tummy's upset anyway, so it's not so good. So when we arrive in Korea, we get off the plane, and I'm kind of like, ugh, anyway. And there's a group of pastors that have met us. There's about 10 of us in the group that's traveled to Korea, and there's about 8 or 10 pastors that have come to meet us and pick us up at the airport, which is very nice. And the Koreans are just very polite, and they bow, and I look like I've been rolled in, dirt. I like my face is white, and I look awful. Anyway, so they say, we would like to take you to dinner. And I'm going, oh my goodness, dinner. Ooh. So they have 2 vans. They put all of us in the front van, all of us that are the guests. And then all the pastors are in the second van following us. And as they load in, I end up getting kind of towards the back of the van. And I don't know about you, but if you're in the back of the van and you get car sick or motion sick at all, it's like a nightmare, right? So I'm sitting there, and the driver it's a stick shift in the car. The van is stick shift, which I thought was odd. So it's like one of these. And so as he's driving, I'm getting more and more nauseous. It's just like, blah. So I turned to my friend who's a couple seats ahead of me, and I said, I'm going to be sick. He says, well, my goodness, roll down the window. So yeah, good idea. So I roll down the window that's next to me. And now it's cold. It's probably January in Korea, which means it's cold. So I stick my head out the window, and the van that's behind me is full of those pastors. And so I begin to be sick. And as I'm being sick out the window, the wind blows what I've upchucked back onto the windshield of the Korean pastor's van. And so now they can't see. They got the windshield wipers trying to do this, right? And I'm still not quite empty. So as I'm hanging out the window again, I kind of do another one. And as I do, my scarf whips off my neck, and it blows back onto the windshield again. So now you got a guy reaching around here trying to shift the car and the windshield wipers. It was a nightmare. So my point here is that, like, those are some of the crazy circumstances that I personally have gone through just in my fear of going on a plane, motion sickness, and it's awful for me. But I refuse. Look at me, I'm going to give you the evil eye. I refuse to let that stop me. I'm going to be a worshiper. I'm going to give the message away. And so are you. So there's nothing. We are to defeat it. In fact, the Hebrew actually says we're to strike that enemy. I like that. I'd like to whack it. Anyway. Make my life worship, not just in songs I sing, but Jesus in everything. Make my life worship, let my whole life worship you.